I'm gonna record.
Davin Salvagno, my good friend, how are you doing?
Scott, it is great to see you again. Always a pleasure to spend time with you, and also to be here with Annie as well. This is a fabulous time. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yes, and hello, Annie.
Hello. Hello, both of you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you both for taking a few minutes here to talk to us about this kind of ever-changing world and landscape of social media and us at Advisors, how we can optimize that context. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some do's and don'ts and best practices and some things that are news, probably, right, Annie?
Yeah, totally.
The algorithm space and the hashtagging and all of that.
All that fun space that's there in the social media world.
But before we sink our teeth into that, Davin, talk to us, please, about the Purpose Summit. How is that shaping up? How are things looking there? I'm in the loop on that. I'm getting the text messages from all of these predominant speakers. It's got to be getting very exciting. You're rounding third.
It is extremely exciting. It's a very exciting time. As you mentioned, it's really cool to see all of these speakers from all different walks of life and industries from all over the world sending messages through our backstage platform to different people who've been following the summit. But we're under 40 days now. And so this has been, a year and a half in the planning. The first one was in 2019. We were supposed to do two, as you know, in 2020, one in Detroit and one in LA. And then, COVID happened. And so we've had some extra time for planning 2021, and it's been just incubating. And I think, with now 39 days away, the speakers are all getting antsy. They're excited. We're getting new messages every single day. I was talking to Nick Craig out of Boston yesterday, who's bringing his entire team in. He wrote the book Leading from Purpose, and some of his biggest clients are Unilever and Lego and Heineken and Ben & Jerry's, and he's been in the space for years. And he called me yesterday and he said he's never been more excited about anything in the last 5 years than he is the Purpose Summit. And then I was on the phone yesterday with Gary Ridge from WD-40 and Ken Blanchard, and they're jazzed up. And so it's really, really cool to see how all of these different authors, speakers, thought leaders have just kind of all waited for this moment. And it's an exciting time, Scott. It really, really is.
So you think about how many are you guys projecting in person at this point?
So in person, we're only allowed to have 300 people in Michigan in the theater, because that's what the state they're not guidelines, they're state orders that we're allowed to have, right? But we got very creative. So you're allowed to have 300 people inside the theater, and you're allowed to have 300 people outside. So we partnered with the city, and we've closed down the entire downtown area, literally a cross section of 5 blocks surrounding this historic 100-year-old theater. And we've contracted a tent company, and we're putting 110-foot tent wedding tents up in the street with 12-foot screens and sound systems inside the tents, and about 40 different food vendors and exhibitors and restaurants and all sorts of stuff surrounding the theater. So we're going to have 300 inside and 300 outside. So 600 in person, and then about another 3,000 that will be live streaming the event virtually from across the world. And then, of course, there's the 30-day on-demand experience for those that don't want to sit in front of their computer for 3 straight days.
What's amazing in all of this is what started out as being basically only an in-person event, which in and of itself certainly successful. Then COVID hit. We talked about that. We don't need to revisit that. Now here you are. Not only are you doing a 600-person in-person summit, but you've now expanded your capacity globally, and it's infinite. That's just fantastic. So good for you guys. That's exciting.
Really exciting.
It's a very, very important conversation. I mean, this concept of purpose for years, which has just been fluff, which really now we are in the heart of the purpose economy. Purpose is, if you want to remain relevant, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you need to be understanding this concept of what it means for your business, for your organization, for you personally, for your clients, and how all that relates to the purpose economy. And so, I think when you look at the times that we're in, people really feeling disjointed from who they are and what they do, and staying relevant in their space and in their industry. It's almost like learning a brand new language. So purpose has never been more important than it is right now. And to have 33 different authors and speakers to come together, and not disjointed, right? I mean, like, they've all been talking to each other. We've been on planning calls with all of them for months, and there's some really cool friendships that have formed amongst them. But for them to all be coming together for these 3 days to pour into this time for humanity is absolutely critical. So we're really, really excited.
I think about that, and just the agenda, I don't know the right adjective, but the curriculum, the panel of speakers and presenters that you have to have this aggregated into one venue. I know it's over a period of a few days, but it's just such a special opportunity. And so I'm not going to miss it. I know my team is not going to miss it. Anybody who listens to this should not miss it. You'd be doing yourself a terrible disservice. How's that? Is that good?
I would agree with that statement. I mean, not to have a shameless plug here, but I mean, it quite frankly, in the business realm, just personally and professionally, what's going to happen over these 3 days is probably the most important conversation that needs to be had for people to continue to stay relevant in the work that they do, and to find fulfillment, and to ultimately, I mean, this is the optimized podcast, right? You're talking about people, passion, performance. I mean, those three words are really going to converge: people, passion, performance around purpose over these 3 days. And to miss it would absolutely put someone behind the curve, in my opinion.
I'm going to say it. Shameful. Shame on them.
Absolutely shameful.
Yeah.
Be there. May 11th through the 13th, the Purpose Summit. Go to thepurposesummit.com. Make sure you participate, whether it's in person, virtually, or at least get the 30-day on-demand experience, because you're not going to want to miss the content from 33 of some of the top thought leaders, authors, and speakers in this space.
Fantastic. Okay. That was great. Moving on to the primary topic of today's conversation, not just purpose and living with purpose, but also being effective and optimizing my practice. My practice being that as a financial advisor, wealth manager, anybody could benefit from this topic, but specifically we're looking at advisors and the advisory space and all of that. So, and then with that, really unpacking the social media platform or platforms, right, that exist today. And from a consumer standpoint, certainly the most predominant is going to be Instagram and Facebook, probably Facebook and then Instagram, where Annie plays a wonderful, wonderful role in helping us, our team, as well as some of our advisors, and continuing to expand in that capacity. The one thing that starts, the first thought I have about this is like time.
Totally.
It's just so scarce. And there is definitely an element of time that's required, probably significant, to effectively operate in the social media marketing space. It's not something that I dabble in. It's not this post once a week or once a month and throw a video out there and do all of this. So there's also significant differences between LinkedIn and, we kind of hybrid the two together, Instagram and Facebook, but there's even very dramatic differences between those two.
It's the number one thing that anyone will say to me when it comes to social media is, how do you have the time to do that? It's so time consuming. And it is. And a lot of times that's why they don't have a predominant social media or even a grid or a platform to go to. You can easily go to someone's social media, and if they haven't been on there, let's just say in 5 or 6 months, or posted up to date, there's no interest there. There's no follower, there's no engagement. And you're really doing yourself a disservice by not keeping up on it.
So with that, what is the further, I would argue there's even more of a consequence.
Yeah.
Meaning it's more of a dramatic negative to you by being very inactive. Is that true?
Yes.
So both of you, what does it mean?
What
does that mean?
I was gonna say, Davin would definitely speak more to probably like the LinkedIn platform, but as far as Instagram and Facebook go, how your feed is brought up into your followers. So somebody that follows you or you follow them back is actually based on them engaging with your content and what you're putting out there. And if you go dark, so to speak, for even a week, you hurt yourself because you're no longer coming up in that person's feed. You're no longer being seen. And you have to create something that keeps them engaged to keep popping up.
So you end up just getting penalized and falling into the abyss.
Pretty much. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a lot of work that goes undone quickly. And as far as LinkedIn goes, it's pretty much the same, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. The one thing that all of these platforms have in common is that they're competing for your time. And so the more time that you give them, the more that they reward you. And if you decide to go dark or take a break or whatever the case, and there's times to do that from a mental health standpoint, there absolutely are. But you need to understand, even if it's just popping in and creating a quick post or commenting on something here and there, there's a balance between contributing and scrolling, right? Too much scrolling it could be very unhealthy. But from a contributing standpoint, it takes, a couple of minutes to, even if you're just putting a quote out there, a thought or something, to make sure that the platforms know that you're still here. That's very, very critical to making sure that the way the algorithms have put you in front of the certain feeds that you want to show up in, that you stay in those feeds. And it's different across different platforms. The one last thing I'll say on that about the difference you mentioned, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, is that different generations are on different platforms. And so it also depends on who you're trying to get in front of. So, baby boomers are predominantly on Facebook. Generation X is predominantly on LinkedIn. Millennials are predominantly on Instagram. And there's crossover on all three of those, but depending on who you're trying to converse with regularly should also dictate how much time you give to each of those platforms.
And to add on to that, he's so true because not just putting a post out there is going to get you anything. You can go on there, you can post and post and post, but you have to engage back. You have to spend, I mean, for me, I always try to say spend 20 minutes after you post or you're on social media. Spend 20 minutes engaging with the people that you find quality, that you're getting something out of. And those people will keep coming back. Those types of situations, those influencers will keep popping up in your, platform so that you're still engaging on both ends. It's not just one-sided, like you said.
So best practice, not in any specific order, but number one, you have to be active, and active is defined as not just posting, but also engaging with your audience, your customers, your friends, your followers. And that, right, Davin, is not just hitting the thumbs up button.
Right.
That's absolutely right. And listen, honestly, the whole thumbs up button, the liking, the comment, and all of that, that's just for feel good. From an algorithm standpoint, and pretty much on both platforms now, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, when you press the like button or the emojis or the hearts or the celebrating, all that does is make the person who created the post feel good about themselves. It really does very little from an algorithm standpoint. The most powerful thing that you can do on social media is comment and tag. So even sharing is very, very minuscule. A lot of times, people will share a post on Facebook or they'll share a post on LinkedIn. And again, once upon a time, the share was a very powerful thing. It's not anymore. You see, we talked about how the platforms are competing for your time. So what they're trying to do is start a contagious viral conversation. So when you comment on a post and then someone else comments and then someone else comments, it's almost like this time suck, and the platform continues to reward that. And so they continue to put that in other people's feeds because they're like, hey, here's a growing conversation. Maybe somebody else might want to see this. Maybe somebody else will want to see that. And so the greatest thing that you could do from a time investment standpoint, Annie's dead right. She take 15, 20 minutes. In fact, from a business standpoint, I will tell you this: the most powerful investment of your time other than physically being in front of a human being and pouring into their life and adding value, that you could do from a business standpoint is spend 15 to 20 minutes on LinkedIn commenting on somebody else's material and engaging the conversation. It is the most valuable piece of time you can spend in business today. And I can back that up as we get into this conversation with some facts, but she's spot on.
Yeah, the biggest thing about leaving a comment is being able to create that conversation that creates that continuous engagement like Davin's talking about. But it's also educating upon education, especially in the space that you're in. So if you're a financial advisor, what are we putting out on the platform? Well, you're talking about your business and your brand and who you are. And you're creating these conversations where people learn and educate from, and that becomes entertaining. And that is, well, time spent, right? Doing that. And a lot of people have lots of clients to comment. And how do I find the time to do that and engage in that? And how do I know when they're on or when I'm able to talk to them? And there are good times and bad times to get involved in comments, obviously. And depending upon, the space and and your time as well in a business, but getting on and spending that time and engaging, resharing, reposting, Davin's right. It's not of the times anymore. It's an attaboy, like, I loved it. This was great information. It's a clapback, really, is what we kind of call it. Sharing in a comment at tagging somebody, and that's the @ with Optimize Advisor podcast on it. That creates the algorithm likes that, but not just a share or a repost. That's not your genuine content.
No.
And you were saying too that going forward, they're probably going to be there's some changes that are coming.
Yeah, I mean, for sure in Facebook, it's kind of gone away. You no longer have to follow a page to have like huge credential or following really in Facebook anymore. And like he said, the thumbs ups are really like more of a personable touch, really. It is like taking the time to, ask a question back or engage back or leave your little bit of advice, on the other end of it. But yeah, I mean, especially with
Well, like views, they're going to be going away with that.
well, views are funny. They come and they go. So right now, when you view something, especially on Instagram, if somebody posts a Reels, you actually can't see how many views that video has. You have to go into Reels, not on their grid, but into Reels to see the views.
So I can see how many views Davin has on a reel. I can, or
Yeah,
I can only see mine.
No. You can see both
Okay,
sides of
okay.
it. But like if it's in your grid, which is the main part of your platform on Instagram, if you post a Reels, to see the actual amount of people that have viewed it and liked it, you have to go into the Reels
Page, like the Reels page.
Yes.
Now on LinkedIn, as an example, LinkedIn shows number of views. It shows comments, I know, but they still show views?
Yes, they do. They do show views, and again, even from a view standpoint, I there's a I mean, I have posts that we've created that have 20, 30, 50,000 views and have X amount of engagements. I have others that have had 1,000, 2,000 views and had 10 times the amount of engagement. And so the value isn't in the number of views. The value is in the content and the commenting and the tagging to drive the conversation. Let me give you a quick example, especially on LinkedIn, because this is especially for advisors, because I know some people are kind of like, well, wait a minute, compliance, how does that play into this? What can I share? Can I give advice? I mean, there's a whole world. This is going to sound ridiculously simple. You're gonna be like, wait, 20 minutes into this podcast, and this is the advice that you're giving? Yes, this is the advice I'm giving. Be as human and authentic as possible and be complimentary. Let me give you an example. So I should have brought it in here. It's sitting on the kitchen table on there, but I have, and this isn't an attaboy. This is just an example. Sitting on my kitchen table right now is a advanced reader's copy of Hubert Jolly's book, The Heart of Business. Awesome book. It comes out May 4th. Hubert Jolly is the former chairman and CEO of Best Buy. He retired last year. He turned the entire company around, and there's some amazing financial data behind what he did to save that company and the growth that they had from going from near single digit stock price to $80 stock price when he left. So he wrote this book, The Heart of Business, which is all about purpose and infusing purpose at work. And so, of course, Hubert, in what world, I didn't run Best Buy. In what world can I pick up the phone and get Hubert Jolly to give me a return phone call, give me some of his time? But in the world of LinkedIn, I can comment on Hubert Jolly's post about his book and say, hey, I really love how you connected the individual organizational dots of purpose and how that translated into the financial salvation of Best Buy and now it being a thriving company. And guess what? Hubert Jolly commented back. And that started a dialogue, which then got me in contact with his publicist. And then his publicist sent me an advanced copy of their book and said, hey, read through this. It's unedited. We love your feedback. And it's from the Harvard Business Review. So again, in what world other than a social world like LinkedIn can I pick up the phone and talk to a former CEO and chairman of a company like Best Buy and have Harvard Business Review send an advanced copy of a book that's not even out yet and ask for feedback? That only happened because I commented. I didn't even talk about me. I commented on his post and was very authentic, very genuine, very human, very complimentary.
Yeah, it's one of the great, what I take from there is what a connecting tool that can be when it's a selfless engagement. It's just genuinely commenting on the book, or in this example, as opposed to we've talked about this, Davin, on LinkedIn. I'm an advisor. Hey, DM you. I do all these great things. Let's meet.
Yeah.
Worst. The worst.
Quality it goes a long way, right? Like being able to touch somebody in that way and connect with somebody and learn. That's what we're all putting out there. Everybody in social media is an expert these days. You can go on there and you can look up. And I learn from people all the time that are strangers, and I love what they're doing, and I engage with them and leave them those specific, same thing, very much so. Like, I love your work. I love what you're doing. I had an idea. What do you think of this? And that creates such good quality content and great business practices.
Yeah.
It does. And you got to be specific. It's not good enough to just, a great post or, hey, love your work, or like be specific. There's this old thing about when you give people compliments, be very specific in what it is you're complimenting them on and how that impacted you, because that makes all the difference in the world on whether or not they respond. The power in this dialogue isn't your comment. The power is in their response. Here's why. If I were sharing my screen, for example, I'll use Hubert Jolly as an example again. If I were to pull up his profile and you look at his activity, there's going to be the last 3 things that he did on LinkedIn are going to show on his profile. Well, he's got hundreds of thousands of followers and whatnot, is well known. Well, one of the last 3 things that shows up on there is his comment back to me. So in essence, when you comment on others and start a natural conversation and they enter the conversation, they comment back, what happens is you show up on their feed. And now what happens is people who did not know you, who didn't, know that you existed, can now engage you because you've just inserted yourself in a feed that you otherwise would not have shown up on. And look, you don't do it for that reason. That's what trolling is. You don't want to be a troll. You don't want to go on there and start being like, okay, who's really popular, who's got millions of views, and let me start commenting on there so that I show up in their feed. That's not genuine. That's not being a human being. That's being manipulative. If you want to be relevant, if you want to be purposeful in using social media right, you need to be genuine, authentic, complimentary, and specific. And just when that person responds, be very gracious, be very grateful, and don't try to sell.
It's creating an organic following, really. It's somebody that you would want to have a good conversation with. You would want to go to have coffee with. The people that you follow should be part of your friend group, those people that, or in business, should be people that you would want to sit down at a conference room table and put together ideas. It's not about getting more followers so that you're the best person looked at. It doesn't work like that anymore. It used to back in when even before Instagram came into play. It was all about likes and follows, and that's just you can tell nowadays if somebody has 400,000 followers and they have 20 likes and 3 comments, they set up their Instagram at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Does
Yep.
commenting on Instagram and Facebook work? And I know it's similar, but how is it different in what Davin described with LinkedIn, where, I make a comment and it's showing on those specific feeds? It is different.
It is different. It comes up a little bit differently, and I definitely think that Devin hit it right on the head when he said you have to be genuine in your LinkedIn. LinkedIn's very networking. Instagram's a little more loose, a little more trendy, I should say. So the emojis and those types of things, Instagram does like that.
Mhm.
It does like words and conversations as well. But it's more of the continuation. So the more you comment on a post, so you and I are friends, right? If I don't engage in any of your posts in 5 months, I won't see anything you're posting, even if you're posting and we're still friends. It
Mm.
won't come up. But if I engage, not just a like, but a heart or a I love that place or looking good, Scott, nice workout, whatever it is, those things
I'm
Instagram likes
engaging
that
in writing,
in writing.
whether it's letter, text or images,
Yeah.
but I'm specifically applying a message within my post as a
Right, and
comment.
and the difference in Instagram too is we used to be able to see those things like Davin's talking about, what other people are doing, or they liked a photo, or Instagram took that out. They took it out about right before COVID, I think, last year, and it was more of you could see what other people were doing or who they were following, which at that point in time, that was great for networking. I think other people took it differently.
Mhm. Interesting. So, segueing into that, using Hubert Jolly and your connection to him through LinkedIn as an example, the point of this for advisors, right? y- You're not anticipating that all of a sudden now I'm connected. Hubert Jolly is going to become a client of mine. That's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
So the segue question, it becomes, I'm an advisor today. Direct marketing would be described as direct initiatives within my practice that create direct opportunities to sit down and meet with a client. So a perfect example, non-COVID or now that things are opening up, seminars. An educational seminar, an educational workshop is a form of direct marketing. I send a mailer, I do marketing, I get in front of people, they're interested in meeting with me, that hopefully become a client. Social media is not that way. Why, as an advisor, if I'm in business today, do I bother? Why would I carve time out of my busy life, busy schedule, managing all these plates to really be deliberate about integrating this into my life and my practice? Not just as a person, as a human being, as the dad posting this with the kids and that with the kids, but really being intentional. Why?
That is such a great question. And it actually, when you think about it, it has really nothing to do with the platforms themselves, but really the philosophy of where the market is going. So when you think about how the ball has moved, and Scott, you've heard me talk about this before, there's been this massive shift in the marketplace. You used to have there's really four generations in the marketplace. You have baby boomers, you have Generation X, you have millennials, and you have Generation Z. And so when you think about boomers and Generation X, what we were looking for in a financial advisor was knowledge, right, and return on investment. That's what we were looking for. We wanted to work with a financial advisor who knew their stuff and they could get us a good return on our investment on our finances. And so for decades, you've had, advisors trying to get a whole bunch of different letters behind their name to show that they're wiser than the next one, that they got more knowledge because I got my CFP, I got my RICP, I got this, I got that. There's advisors I know that have more letters next to their name than in their name. And so, that all from a place of trying to position and say, look, I'm knowledgeable. And then the other piece of the equation has always been about return on investment and talking about how their philosophy around planning is better than the next guy. Well, newsflash, the next two generations that are in the marketplace, millennials and Generation Z, that's not what they're looking for in an advisor. They're looking for a relationship. They're looking for trust. They're looking for that person who can advise them outside of just finances. And so, look, I get that there's a lot of advisors right now that want to just work with the people that are 55 or 60 and older because they have the next egg, and that's where that their return on investment is. But if you're going to be in financial planning for at least the next 10 years, guess what? The cheese has moved, and you need to start learning how to build trust and how to build relationships. And the key to building trust and relationships is vulnerability. And the best place to be vulnerable is on social media. So you put the time into social media to show your vulnerability, to build trust and relationships so that you could stay relevant. And that becomes the foundation for everything else that you build your practice upon when it comes to working with clients.
And how often do you ever meet somebody and you go on social media and look them up?
Well,
You
all
can
the
be
time.
honest.
Yeah. I do it all the time.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
Like even
I'll do it
recommending.
on my very first conversation. While we're talking, I'm like, search this here, search that there.
Yeah. And Devin's right. My first thought was brand. People build a brand. People build off of personality. So you sprinkle in your personality to your brand. They start to know who you really are. They want to know you have two boys. They want to know what you do on the weekends, what's fun for you. They kind of it's a nosy place to be, social media is, but it's also that place where you become vulnerable, where you show those things that you're a human, right? And creating the trust. Trust is how people buy things. That's why consumers are huge on social media right now, because you see something, I like that. Ooh, that looks really good. I enjoy that. That what that person does or puts out on their social media, you engage with. Now you have a feeling towards it. That's the same thing you get when you see, Scott pop up all the time. Well, and then he's cool. He does this, he does that. I like him. I think he's a good guy. I think I would want to do business with him, or I would want him to advise me in financial advice.
So in the marketing world, what do you describe that? What's that called? I mean, it's indirect marketing, I know, but
It's social marketing.
It is social marketing. It
social
really
marketing.
is. But it's branding too. I mean, Annie hit it on the head. It really is branding, right? It's been said before. People don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. That's an old saying that never ever grows old. But they also want to know that if they spend time on you, that it's not just going to be transactional, right? I mean, we are beyond the transactional world. The world of the 80s and the 90s, that was the transactional world. We are now in a transformational society. Scott, we've talked about, our friend Dennis Mosley Williams, for years, he's been talking about the experience economy and the progression of economic value. If you're trying to compete and build client base based off of product, price, and service, you are way behind. You need to be building based off of experience and transformation. What experience are you providing, and how are you transforming people's lives? And it has to be about them and not about you. You just said that when we look people up, or when we meet people, we look them up on social media. How you portray yourself on social media is huge. If I look at your feed and all I see is pictures of you, I'm going to think you're arrogant. It's all about you. You're a transactional type of person. But if I see pictures of you celebrating others, that immediately is going to open up my trust factor, right? There's advisors out there that are always taking pictures of themselves in front of a car or a big house or whatever. Take pictures with your clients, take pictures with people. Choose to be the spotlight rather than trying to be in the spotlight. The last thing I'll say on that is we were recently in the market for a new car, and there was a guy, we were trying to find someone, and there's a guy who's constantly showing pictures of him driving to people's houses, delivering their new car, and the picture of his happy clients in front of their new car. It's not a picture of him in front of the car. So it's the same thing in the social media space in the advisory world is, listen, it's indirect marketing. Like you talked, it's social marketing, it's branding. It's choosing to use your platform to shine the spotlight on those that you are serving and those that you are learning from, rather than using it to shine the spotlight on you and how much you know.
I have a theory that is very much along those lines. I totally believe that you cannot be all about you on social media if you are in a business
Can't.
sector. No,
Right.
it is your brand. It is what you're doing to inspire, to educate, to engage, to entertain those people that are following you and engaging back with you. That's what they want to see. They want you to inspire them or motivate them in
Mhm.
some way you've learned that you can pass on. They educate them in what you are an expert or knowledge in. They want you to engage with them by asking questions, finding out a little bit more about them, not about you,
Mhm.
but more of what they want to know. And then entertaining them, like you said, getting involved with your clients and giving uplifting others is a huge trend in social media right now with women uplifting other women who it's not only was it big because March is kind of an awareness towards that, but it's big to support other people because they're known for, let's say, 80, 90s style for not always being women kind of competitive, to be honest. And now it's supporting other women is a huge movement, especially through social media. And so other people in your business and in your sector is also really, really goes a long way.
And that's huge, Annie, what you just said there too, because I said the word relevant earlier. It's critical that when people look at your feed, that they see things that are timely and relevant. So if you know that right now, there's this trend, I guess, if you will, of women celebrating women, right? And March being an awareness month and everything. There's a difference between genuinely entering that conversation and posting about it, or just putting it on your social media to seem like you know what's going on, right? Check the box, right? It's like the people who, every Martin Luther King Day, every single person. I love Martin Luther King Day. This year I couldn't decide which of his 10 favorite quotes that I like to post, right? So I posted 10 of them. But there's a difference between just throwing that up there because you're like, oh, I got to post something because it's MLK Day or it's women celebrating women or whatever. Because if I don't, I'm going to look as if I'm not with the times, or I'm going to be, the cancel culture movement's going to come after me, whatever it is. You don't just throw things up on social media to check a box and say relevant. You put things on social media that you truly believe in and that you are engaged in, and you enter the conversation.
Right. And it's true because social media is trendy, right? And that's what pushes you to the top. And if you can create your own content that is you, it's you as a brand, and mix that in with Martin Luther King Day or women run businesses or, coming up Earth Day, how can you incorporate your business to Earth Day instead of just throwing up like Earth and Happy Earth Day, So
Yeah, if I don't wish my wife happy anniversary on social media, I'm not a loser. That means I'm not a good, right? Like,
it's a thing, right? Yeah.
It is
I
a
can
thing.
celebrate my
It is
anniversary a number of ways. Thank you very much. I don't have to post.
But it is amazing how on a business page, 'cause I manage quite a few business pages, whenever we post something personal, something that not the patients, the customers, the clients see, the engagement almost triples.
always, always.
Always.
Always at their core, there's a piece of humanity that if you could hit that, if you can, to this day, the biggest post that I ever had from an engagement and from a view standpoint and all of that, I found this picture, and I've been looking for the artist. I can't find the artist, but I found this picture, and it was a picture of this dad holding a shield up over his daughter who was over a campfire. And in the shield were 3 arrows. It was nighttime. There were 3 arrows in the shield, and he's got one hand up like this. And then his daughter's in front of him, and she's roasting marshmallows with one of the arrows. There's a marshmallow on the arrow over the campfire. And it was just a powerful imagery of, the role that, fathers play in their daughters' lives. And really, it could be any parent. It doesn't have to be a father, mother. It could be any kid. But it was a powerful visual of this idea of both protecting and providing. And in some ways, that sacrificial, using even the things that you're protecting from to provide. It was just such a powerful image. I still can't get it out of my head. And I shared that image, but I said something about it that was very genuine, very vulnerable. And it had nothing to do with my business, had nothing to do with my brand. It had nothing to do with what was going. It was just, it struck a human chord. And so when you think about that, do your posts, does your content engage people at the core of their humanity? That's what you want your content to do.
That's fantastic. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's not worth it to do what everyone else is doing. It's worthless at the end of the day. You're spending time doing something that you're not going to get a lot out of. So make sure that you are touching and you are speaking from where you come from, and like I said, those personal touches, they go huge across the board, especially when it comes to business. When somebody doesn't actually see you on a daily basis and know what you do outside of what your profession is, and you put that on social media, it brings in a whole nother layer of people that you will then realize this is another layer of followers I need. This is intentional. And that's why you have to be very intentional with your posts. You have to think about, okay, if I'm going to inspire today, what's inspiring me right now that I
Yeah,
could talk about in this
that's
space?
right.
Or how could I touch that and educate somebody that, wow, when I was struggling when I first started my business, I would love to share some words that I have failed and this is what I've done,
Right.
and that gets people talking. And then they tell their story too, right? Like when you have a successful moment, we want you to share your success, but you have to be real at the end of the day too. And so you have to share some of the, obstacles, and that type of thing is very, very powerful when it comes to engaging.
Yeah, so if I'm a very action oriented person, right? So, you know, I think that's all right. I get it. Sounds good. Indirect marketing, social marketing. I need to engage, meaning I'm in alignment. What are some of the best first action steps that I should be taking? For me, it starts with, okay, wow, the whole brand conversation. Yeah, as an advisor, I might have a logo, but do I really have a brand? And even more to that, have I really stopped and thought about what even the simplest thing of my logo, does it resonate with who I am, with who I want to portray? What should my brand be? Where do I start? And then from there, it's like, okay, um, my personality. Well, what elements of my personality am I really willing to, portray at first? Or just some insights. What are some specific action items that I could take tomorrow?
Well, I would say first get on social media. If you aren't on it, create that space.
So I'm on.
You're on.
Yep. Next.
So my next thing I would do is I would just check your profile and I would see that you have all the important things that are on your profile.
All it is Mr. Advisor, meaning non-advisor name, meaning they're not.
It's a blank
not a
slate.
company. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they're not the company profile and they haven't done any of that. It's just me as a person at this point.
If they aren't going to do their business, I would probably personally, if I took them on as a client, I would make them a public figure. It kind of classifies them out there a little bit more. It makes you a little more public. This is Instagram speaking.
Right.
I would update their profile picture to something that is professional, yet still not too stuffy.
Right.
And
It's not the selfie with me on the ski lift and, one eye's cut
maybe
off.
not. Maybe not. We definitely want it to be clear and something that when they look at you, they ran into you, they
But
would
still
know that was you.
personable.
Very personable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be said super stuffy, but a little bit more that like if I look at it and I go, oh, that's that this is Scott. He wears a t-shirt. He has a sport coat. Like this is the Scott that if I were to run into you on the street, I would see that's you.
Right.
And then you utilize your profile for a couple different reasons. One, you want to state what you do or what you give advice in or what your business is if you're a public figure. You also want to cover any of the areas that you are an expert. Social media is known for everybody being an expert. So I use that word lightly because it's trendy, but what you give advice in. Okay, so if you're a financial planner, you want to say you do financial planning, estate planning, whatever those. Social media likes things in threes usually, so you list those three things. You do want to add emojis because they add kind of a creative look to it. And you want to space it out so it's clean when you read it. Now, a lot of people don't know how to do that. It's not easy. You have to use other apps and
Right.
create that.
And we've had some meetings, Davin, where you've talked about like your LinkedIn profile.
It's very different.
It's very different, but still there's a deliberate action protocol, if you will, of what you want that profile to look like, what words should be in there, or not the words, but the structure of those words in your profile. Don't just vomit on your profile, right?
That's exactly right.
Words.
The biggest problem that we tend to see on LinkedIn is that people they're just way too hard right off the bat trying to sell. I mean, imagine walking into any physical networking event, whatever it would be, and imagine the very first thing that you did was walked up to people and said, "Hi, I'm Scott. I'm a financial advisor. Here's my card. I specialize in this. Like without you would try to get away from that person as fast as you possibly could. And unfortunately, a lot of profiles look like that. You land on someone's profile and even like right underneath their name, it doesn't even tell you their title or what company that they work at or whatever. They have some line like, I specialize in blah, 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 blah. So I have zero interest in really connecting with that person because I already know that the second that I do, they're going to try and sell me something, right? They're only there for business. It's a transactional relationship. And right now, predominantly, a lot of profiles on LinkedIn are written that way. And it's a terrible mistake. Again, you need to be human and you need to be genuine, authentic, and simple. And so there's nothing wrong with having your name and saying, I'm a financial advisor, a specialist, whatever, with XYZ company. And then in your actual profile description, as Annie just said, very clean, very concise, maybe 3 short paragraphs. But here's what's very, very critical. The very first paragraph should not speak to what you do or what you sell. It should speak to who you are. Right. So that very first paragraph needs to express your humanity. The second paragraph can then talk about what you do or what you specialize in. Way too many people are leading right off the bat. I mean, they're just really quickly trying to close the deal without even saying, hey, you want to go on a date? I mean, it's just, there needs to be an expression. If you like long walks and pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, talk about it. You know what I mean? I mean, that needs to be in the first paragraph, and then talk about how you're so excited about annuities. I mean, but don't lead with that.
Right.
For heaven's sake, people.
Well, the biggest thing with Instagram is that profile you build out, it's actually searchable now, even through Google keywords. So instead of writing your name, which everybody does, it's the number one mistake. You don't want to write you're at Scott Heinela. You don't want to be Scott Heinela.
Right.
You're not. It's overdoing it. In that part right there, you need to have an action item that needs to be about you, like exactly like what Davin was saying and what you do. And mine's Let's Talk Social with the emoji peace sign, because people are going to look up social and I'm going to come up right away because no one's looking up Annie. No one's looking up Cooper. Really, when it comes to social media, they're looking up what they're trying to find.
That's right.
In LinkedIn, it's a little different, but Devin's right. It is putting it out there, your likes, your interests, what makes you a person, and then lead with what your expert is. That's what your content's going to be based on anyways, right?
That's right.
So,
Yes.
and good pictures. Just
Yes.
the quality.
Oh, yes. Good pictures.
It used to be, I mean, I've known Scott before Instagram, so I was thinking about that today, like going back and looking at things and the
Uh-oh.
way we would share things.
Am I
that-
about to get
No,
scolded here?
no, no.
Okay,
I'm
good.
just saying that Instagram's a game changer as far as, and so is LinkedIn. And here's why. The quality of posts, it goes back to the I'm going to look you up. I meet you for the first time. We're going to do business together. We think I'm going to look you up. If I look at your page, well, I should backtrack that. If I look at your page and your page is awful, I can't wait for you to be my client.
Right. Genuine. That's genuine right there. I appreciate that.
Because we're going to make it so good, you know? But when somebody looks you up as a business, as a brand, as somebody who's going to give you financial advice, because we are so millennial and Gen Z driven, especially in this space, you have to have a good looking profile.
Yeah.
You have to have an amazing grid. It almost stands out more than a website. It's better than your dating page. It is what is going to be your landing page for people to come and see you. I always call it your lookbook. It's your chance to shine through what you have. And if you have a really nice grid and it's clean and it's to the point, but it's still organic enough that, you know, they know that over the top professionals weren't managing it, you know, that's when you're giving out that real content that people go there and they'll see that you're organized, that you're timely, that you run business, that you know, they land there and they get that feel for you.
You know, it's so interesting too, because as I reflect on this, I think about the last kind of 3 items I've purchased as a consumer. They were not directly from a website. I didn't go to, let's say, and I'm crossing obviously paradigm, but it's still online interaction and engagement. I didn't go to Nordstrom.com and buy XYZ. I actually made the purchase through, it was either Facebook or Instagram or what have you, never even going directly to their website. If I search you, Davin, I'll probably find your, LinkedIn page, your social media content way before I'm going to dive down and find your website or spend time reading your website. I'm going to look at your social media platform and engagement and interaction first.
Yeah, actually, and it depends on your role too, right? So, like, if you were to Google me, right, actually, the very first thing that's going to come up is LinkedIn. Believe it or not, before davinsalvagno.com, LinkedIn actually first is going to come up LinkedIn, then Speaker Match because they're paying Google to do speaker matching, and then you'll see my website, and then the next thing that might come up is my book on Amazon or wherever the case is. Those would be the top 4 things that come up. But I think Annie said something earlier that's critical, is it really depends on who you are and what you did. She talked about being a public figure. This is really, really important. I want to make sure we don't miss this. There's going to be people who are listening to this if they've made it through this 53 minutes so far. And if you're with us, congratulations. I can't wait to see what you do with this. But there's going to be some of you that are going to go look at Annie's social media. Then you're going to look at Scott's. Then you're going to look at mine. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to see consistency. And that's important, because what Scott does and what Annie does and what I do are different things. When you look at my profile is going to be written in third person. And the reason why is because I'm constantly being asked for a bio. So it's written in bio format. If you're not constantly being asked for a bio, your profile should not be written in third person, right? Because then it's going to come across as disingenuous. Don't do that, right? If you're someone like Annie, who her thing is social media, she is going to come right at you and talk to you about social media because that's her thing. And if you're someone like Scott, who's kind of in the financial services industry, but really at a different level than most normal financial advisors, he's really constantly shining the spotlight on what good looks like. His is going to look very different than a traditional financial advisor who is there to just focus on giving advisor advice. So my suggestion is this, is that look at who is doing this well as it relates to your specific role, industry, or a niche, and then emulate that. But emulate it from a position of authenticity, of from a place of being a human and not being transactional. If you're transactional, if you're salesy, people are going to bounce.
Yeah. That is true. And it is every little industry, every little niche, what you do from hairdresser to financial advisor, you have your space, right? You have your space that it trends in the social media platform, and you have your space that your followers engage with you on. And like you said, the consumer is definitely being uh, Instagram and Facebook know when you're looking at something. They know when you're shopping for something, even if you didn't search it on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah. So we get it. Genuine, authentic, simple. It's this razor's edge too. You said this in the very beginning of the difference between contributing, being a contributor, and find yourself just endlessly scrolling.
Yeah.
There's a thin line there. You know, you got to be disciplined. You've got to have the right mindset. Whoop, right here, uh, and be focused in what it is that you're doing. So, with that said, limited time. Time is a scarcity. Where can I go, Annie, to reach out to you? If I want assistance, I want to embrace this. I recognize that this is critical to my practice, to my brand, to my future. I'm trying to create transformational experiences with my clients, grow my practice. What, where do they begin and how do you help them? What's your basic interaction with them?
Well, they can find me at AC Social Designs, and I have a website as well. I would sit down and I'm more of a niche social media manager, expert, strategist, whatever you want to call me. Um, but I really groom it tailored to what you want to get out of it. So everybody's different. Everybody's starting point is different. Some people have one that's established that needs a little bit more help. Some people don't even know where to go with it. So we sit down and we talk about what it would look like, what platforms you should consistently be on, what your brand is, what you want to get out of it. And at the end of the day, we kind of tailor and put together a package for you that helps you. And I've done that a lot with smaller startup businesses or um, experts like financial advisors, where we can kind of start to create this consistency in social media that you need so that people know where to go
Yeah,
to
for a
find
lot of
you.
people, it's really just simple. So, perfect example was I don't know the first thing about technology. So it'll take me so much time and effort to get to a point where you're at or Davin's at. So I really need a quick learning curve. The other part of it is maybe I just need a coach, a little bit of a coaching relationship of somebody like you or Davin who's saying, you know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Make no mistake, the advisor or the relationship, the customer is the creator of the content,
Absolutely.
right? But it's helping them get to where they need to be and what
Get
they want to accomplish.
Right. Like I spend time with my clients once a week. We have quick strategy meetings and we literally talk about what it is that we want to get out there this week that's engageable for their followers that maybe they have set. Like, if I was helping Davin, we'd be pushing Purpose Point. We'd be talking about it and hyping it up and getting excited about it and putting his blood, sweat, and tears through social media out there so other people receive that,
Mhm.
so that they're getting information, they're being educated, and we spend time talking about how we want to grow the brand. And with my clients, I consistently want to post 3 to 5 times a week. I think that's a great consistent flow. Some of them like to do their engagement on their own, which I encourage in certain areas. Others, if it's a consumer based business where they're selling a product, it's a little bit easier for me to be that person.
Mhm.
And I think that overall, at the end of the day, everybody's need in social is a little different, but it's a must.
Yeah, there's the personalization.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Anything you'd like to add?
No, personalization is huge. It really, really is. At the end of the day, people are looking to be helped. They're looking for value. And the more that you can articulate how you help, how you add value, who you can help others become through what you do, the better off you're going to be. At the end of the day, that's the economy that we're living in right now. And so I would just challenge and say, does your social media do that? Does your social media articulate how you can help, how you can add value, who you can help others become, and does that come across genuine and authentic.
Yeah, 100%.
That's great. Thank you both for your time. Davin, I wish you all the best of health and enjoyment and success with your Purpose Summit. I look forward to that. I
Thank
wish I was with you where I could just give you a big hug, but our day will come. There we go.
Hey, I can't wait to be in person again. I can't wait to be at the Purpose Summit. I can't wait to be back out in Orange County. It's been it's been a while since we've been out there, and just really really grateful for how you've continued to take this platform and use it to make others better. So thank you for continuing to make a difference every single day through this podcast and in the lives of others.
And thank you, Annie.
You're
For
welcome.
being
Thank you
here.
very much. Nice to meet
Awesome.
you. Thanks, Davin.
Thank you, Annie. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Till next time. Hmm.